First and foremost, Justin wants everyone to know he's a full-time dad. And the rest of his time, he is the founder and CEO of Work, Meaningful. Meaningful, where he combines over a decade of leadership in Fortune 500 companies, his real-life experience and research to help global organizations create new rhythms of sustainable excellence, profitability, and engagement. Justin is passionate about helping organizations and individuals take ownership of their mindset, purpose, and performance to achieve amazing results. His latest book, Your Why Matters Now: How Some Achieve More and Others Don't, challenges the reader to merge their purpose and productivity to get more out of their work and life. Now, without further ado, please help me welcome Justin Jones-Fosu to the stage.
Awesome. How you doing? You look good. Yeah, you're good. Awesome. Cue the music, please, if you don't mind. All right. Y'all ready? Okay. This is about to get lit for a second. All right. So I'm super excited, and one of the things that I want you to do as we kick this thing off is I want you to share with the person next to you your diversity story. Your diversity story. When did you first realize that diversity and inclusion was important? And if you don't yet, I'm glad you're here. But share that first story that it came to you that diversity and inclusion was important. All right? On your mark, get set, go. Go, 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 go. All right. Y'all got some long stories. I love it. All right. Now, as we've begun that journey, let's begin. All right. Now, one of the interesting things... Y'all ready? Come on. All right, I need your help. When I point the mic in your direction, I need y'all to join in with me. Y'all ready? Firing, living it up in the city. I got Chuck's song that I can't. Oh, we're gonna start off with this side over here first. I'm too hot. That was very weak. This side, very weak. All right, this side. I'm too hot. Okay, this side. Middle section, come on. I'm too hot. All right, middle section. I'm too hot. I said, go and break it down. Girl, sunshine. Hallelujah. Woo. We'll stop there, right? Everybody can't wait till we get to the woo part, right? Like, woo! And what I want to do to showcase is that this is not going to be like any diversity and inclusion presentation you've ever experienced. After about 20 years of doing DEI work, 12 years directly working with organizations, I've realized a lot of things. And one of those things is that sometimes diversity presentations are boring. And this will not be like that, right? We will not have a boring presentation as we engage today. But at the same token, you will get some practical strategies that you can apply as soon as you leave. Now, a little bit about my history. As a Ghanaian American, dual citizen of both Ghana and United States, I love the journey that I've experienced just around the world and all the countries I've visited and all the different things. But I've won awards, yada, yada, yada. You can read it in the bio. But the most important thing to me has been the journey of being a dad. And this is my princess, Lydia, a younger picture of my princess, Lydia. This is the more recent picture of my princess, who is now 10 years old, and her claim to fame right now, she's getting ready to launch her first business. She is super passionate about sustainability and helping kids to better recycle. And so when you see Table 2 World, that's Lydia. Well, I decided to dance again, and out came this little guy. And this is a more recent picture of Prince Peter. And his full name is Justin Peter Kofi Ayarabi Jones-Fosu II. Yes, it's all on his birth certificate, right? That's also a hard name from this kid. Okay, right? And his claim to fame is that he can break wood with his feet because he's taking Taekwondo. Now, why do I show you this? Why is this important to me? This is important to me because as a dad who just loves his kids and is working as hard as a single dad just to love on his kids, I realize something powerful is that I want to create a better future, a better place where our generations aren't defined by their divisiveness, but rather by the depths of their relationships. And that became my heartbeat, my passion, to give people practical strategies to make this thing of diversity and inclusion a very practical aspect of our everyday lives. And that inspired me to write The Inclusive Mindset. Right? Now, let me be real with you and frank, because I've been doing work for 12 years with organizations from Mercedes and Toyota and John Deere and all the other places. And one of the things that I realized is that I was doing it, but I was hiding. What do you mean by that? I didn't want to be the black guy doing diversity, right? I didn't want to do that. Yes, I was trained in it and all this stuff, but I also had an MBA in leadership and organizational change, and I'd work with organizations. So I broadcast my workplace engagement work more than I did the diversity stuff until May 25th, 2020. Oh, May 25th happens to also be my birthday. And so that day, as I processed the information and the things, I came out of hiding and said, I can no longer keep what I'm doing just for organizations, but I want to help the everyday person with these practical strategies. And so I began on a mission, and I put out these YouTube videos, these 7 mini episodes of everyday diversity so that people could apply it in their lives. And it was such a good reception that I wrote this book. And I want to share with you pretty much from a high level of what is the inclusive mindset and share one of the modules of the 10 that we work through. Now, what does all this mean? It all means and starts with the question of this. When you were growing up, who was your first hero? Who was your first hero? You know, for me, my first hero was somebody that pretty famous, many of you all have heard of, and she goes by the name Mommy. Yes. My mom was my first hero, and even more specifically, my first diversity and inclusion hero. See, we grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, right here, okay, right there. And we grew up, and my mom was a single mom, 2 rambunctious little boys, stints of homelessness, had challenges. We'd go to Salvation Army before it became cool, and she would get like sweater vests and bow ties because I swear she was trying to create a boys to men group. But the interesting thing is that even through our economic challenges, my mom made sure we still experienced difference. We went to Oktoberfest and to Polish Festival and Hispanic Heritage Month and all of these events, and we got in the same way that everyone else did who didn't have money. We volunteered. But not only did we go out to experience diversity, we also brought it into our home. And we had exchange students from Japan and France and Germany for 2 years, and even one from Brazil that unfortunately only lasted 1 day. Because when she realized we were a black family, she asked to be placed with another family. So I learned a lot in this journey. And as I was working on this book and the concept, I realized I got a lot of this from my mom. And so I interviewed her. And one of the things that she shared was a powerful story of where she got this mindset from. You see, my mom was one of the first black female air traffic controllers in the Air Force. All right? Yeah, you can get a round of applause for my mom. Yes. Super dope. And she shared that there were sometimes she'd be stationed in Japan for 2 years. And there were some soldiers who had the opportunity to, but never left base. And she said, Justin, I didn't want you and your brother to grow up and never leave your home base to experience the beauty of the people and cultures around you. And that was the inspiration where my mom would take us to events, things that we disagreed with, learning from all of these things. And that is where I came up with this opportunity of the inclusive mindset, which comes right back to your story. How you came to diversity and inclusion, how you saw its importance. And my hope, no matter where you are in this journey, is that you're able to walk away today with some practical ways and inspired to continue your journey as we move forward. But first, I need you to do me a favor. For all those who are able, I want you to please stand up. Please stand up. All those who are able. All right. Now, what I want you to do, as fast as you can, I want you to walk around this whole section of chairs and tables and get back to your seat as fast as you can. All right? On your mark, get set, go, 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 go.
The following
Din din dim bum, din din bum 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 bum, bum bum. Walk it out. Now walk it out. Hey, now walk it out. Left side, walk it out. East side, walk it out. North side, walk it out. South side, walk it out. All right, 20. 19. 18. 17. 16. 15. 14. 13. 12 and 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, Everett 4, 3, 2, 1 and a half, 1/4, 1/8, 1/16, 1/32, 1/64, 1/128, 1/56. Please don't make me do more math. All right. Now I have a question for y'all. What in the world just happened? Some are like, I did more exercise than I did all week. Thanks, Justin, right? And it's interesting to me because I want to show you the 3 different types of people when I usually do this exercise. So let me show you the 3 different types of people. All right. First group of people. All right. I want everybody to stand up. Man, this guy's making us do something. Psh, I didn't come here to do anything, man. You better calm down. All right. All right, I want you to walk around the whole section of chairs and tables and get back to your seat as fast as you can. I saw you. Okay. The next group of people, I want everybody to stand up. Oh, we're going to do something. Yes, we're going to do something. Oh, my gosh, it's so awesome. All right, I want you to walk around the whole section of chairs and tables, get back to your feet. All right, ooh, way too many people coming that way. All right. And the last group, ooh, I love this last group. All right, I want everybody to stand up. All right. I want you to walk around the whole section of chairs and tables, get back to your seat as fast as you can. All right. I don't know how one table was the whole section of chairs and tables. Yes. You are the shortcut people. And it's interesting to me because if you looked from my vantage point, depending on which side that you came out on, that about 80 to 85% of you, depending on your side you left, you all begin going the exact same way of the side you left. It was a powerful interest. Some of y'all started, I got to go one, oh, excuse me, I don't want to run into your biceps, and began going a whole different way. And this is actually a real life theory called the herd theory. And the herd theory, what it did is it looked at a group of creatures, and when this group of creatures thought that impending danger was coming, that they all began going the exact same way. Sometimes that way was off of a cliff. And my question as relates to us is, where is your herd leading you? Where's your herd leading you? We can even call that out to diversity and inclusion because there's a herd of how diversity and inclusion has been defined in society. And I want to challenge that notion because think about it. Each and every single one of us are different, aren't we? I mean, some of us have long hair. Some of us have short hair. Some of us who are hair follically challenged, we just whip our ears back and forth, right? Some of us have beautiful smiles like Colgate should be calling. And well, some of us have amazingly unique, distinct laughs. And those are the people just try not to laugh. Wait a minute, I cannot let them hear the laugh. You know the kind of laugh. You can be in a movie theater, it's pitch black, you can't see a thing, you hear the person laughing, you're like, Susan, I hear you laughing, Susan. You like the movie? I mean, that kind of laugh. What we found in the research is that right around the end of elementary school, minding in our ways into middle school, going into high school, following us for those of us that went into college, and even into the professional ranks, as we meet people and have different types of experiences, this is what begins to happen. We become copies. Oh, I could have brought the mic to you, and you could have told me how you march to your own beat, how you're different, how you show up with your own unique swag. But in practice, you simply followed the herd. And that's what we find as relates to diversity and inclusion, depending on the herd that you're after. Now, it's amazing to me because I had this one guy come up to me at the end of my presentation, and he was like so excited. He was like, Justin, I want to be just like you. How do you respond to that, y'all? So I tried to answer as honest as I could. I was like, thank you, but I don't think you can be that sexy. And then interesting, I'm joking, I didn't really say that, but you didn't have to laugh that hard. You're like, sexy, yeah, right, thanks. But on the way home, I began asking myself, how do I practically respond to this statement? And I came away with this simple mantra that says this: don't be just like anyone, be better for everyone by being the only you. Now, what does that mean, y'all? That means that there are unique skill sets, gift sets, successes, your failures, the challenges that you face, your addictions, the failed marriages, all of the things that have been brought into the journey of who makes you, you. That's the beauty of you. But I find so many people trying to fit in, trying to mold in, trying to simply follow the herd because it's the most comfortable. And that's not true diversity and inclusion. That's not true inclusive mindset. And I realized something really powerful is that in order to embrace the inclusive mindset, we have to embrace our own unique differences. Now, what does that look like, y'all? How do we get there? So let me kind of dispel some myths, some things that we talk about diversity and inclusion, just to make sure we're all on the same page. Some of you already get it. Great. Let's keep it going. Some of you, I hope that as we're getting on the same page in language and understanding together, that we're able to grow forward. So what is this inclusive mindset vision? Well, first of all, it's challenging the normal definitions of what diversity is, right? As a person who worked within DEI for a long time, 20 years plus, and I remember we started seeing discrimination and things happening, and we wanted to rightfully solve it. We wanted to solve it. And so what we did is that we leapfrogged to many of the micro areas that you see here in terms of race and gender and ability and all these things. But y'all, what we did is that we leapfrogged over the macro. And the macro simply is that diversity at its simplest form is not necessarily race or gender or ability or country of origin or language. Diversity at its simplest form is just difference. Let me ask you a question. Could you come from the same place, look very similar, and still be very different? And what I understood in working with people is that we leapfrogged over the macro, and I started realizing that until people understand the value of difference, the micro differences will just be lip service. And I realized a powerful point. There's a lot of people who have great head knowledge about diversity and inclusion, but very few that I found have a great heart knowledge about it. And my friends, that's where true transformation happens. Right? Let me ask you a question. When's the last time you heard somebody change their exact position because they heard a statistic? 65% of people suffer because of that. Well, I'll never do that. No, it doesn't happen that way. But what normally happens as we meet people, as we engage, as we hear the stories of people, as we have proximity that breeds empathy, that's the powerful thing. You know, when leaders ask me, or CEOs or executives say, Justin, I want to diversify my organization, my first question has nothing to do with their organization. It's all about, tell me about your life. Who do you go to lunch with? Who can come over to your house? Who are the people who I would call it the refrigerator test that can open up your refrigerator? All right? These are more of the signs that show if things will be long lasting and we move from the business case to the humanity case, because these are just good people that are qualified. Diversity and inclusion is also not the big three. Oh, I know what you thought of when I said the big three. You thought of them. No, it wasn't them. And some of y'all have graduated and you thought of them. No, not even that big three. But the big three are race, gender, sexuality. Right? And it's interesting to me, and I know that sometimes when we hear the word diversity, we often go to these things, even especially race. Let's take it to the 2020 primaries. 2020, newscasters would come onto the television stations, and they'd be like, we've just been to Iowa. We're headed to New Hampshire, but wait till we get to the more diverse states. And I began screaming at the TV screen like, no! I've been to Iowa and New Hampshire. They're very diverse. The question is, what type of diversity are we talking about? So I've been challenging people to utilize what I call prefixes as they talk about diversity. When you're talking about diversity, are you talking about racial diversity, gender diversity, ability diversity, religious diversity, socioeconomic diversity? Because sometimes we are being exclusive while trying to be inclusive, even our language. And so some people have said, oh, I'm not included. That's y'all thing. Go ahead and handle it. And this is our call, is that every single one of us, no matter what you look like, where you come from, what you believe, is a part of this conversation of diversity. Because remember, diversity at its simplest form is just difference. Now, certain times, issues and things and micro areas rise up to the surface that need more attention than others as we talk about equity. But that's not all diversity is. See, y'all, this is a journey. This is a long journey. I will never get off this journey. That's why, from an organizational perspective, we challenge people to say, stop calling diversity an initiative. Because you can start and stop initiatives. But when it's in the character, the value of who you are, it just comes out. It's who you are. It also stems from one of my favorite fables growing up, the tortoise and the hare. Now, this could be controversial. We'll see. But I've seen a lot of people, organizations, cities, be hares as it relates to this conversation. They initially look really good, fast, out. We've created a diversity and inclusion statement. Yes. Changed our social media profile. Whew. We're good. But meanwhile, some of the organizations, the people that have been strategically moving forward, don't think that the tortoise is slow. The tortoise is strategic and has long-lasting action because guess what? The tortoise got to the finish line. This is what we need. We need more tortoises who are going to identify practical ways to develop and move forward. And so my job today in these brief moments is to make you a little bit more comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's my job. How do we do it? Well, first is this, right? When I talk about diversity, I'm talking about the big umbrella of diversity. The big umbrella. Diversity was never meant to not be equitable. It was never meant to not be inclusive. It was never not meant to have justice. It was never not meant to have a sense of belonging. It's how we've enacted it. So when you hear me talk about diversity, I'm talking about the big global aspect of diversity. Now, I've also realized something pretty powerful, is that most people don't believe in diversity at all. Most people believe in what I call diverse-me. It's the difference that's about me is the only thing that has value. Now, what I'm not saying, y'all, is that your specific difference doesn't have value. I'm not saying that. But if it's about your specific difference 100% of the time, throughout all of eternity, that's actually not called diversity. That's called selfishness. Real diversity is when we get up and stand up for the needs of others, even when it has absolutely nothing to do with us. That's real diversity. That's what we call the inclusive mindset. Oh, I also love this concept. Everybody loves diversity as long as it's their brand of diversity. That's not diversity. That's not the inclusive mindset. Right? Diversity and inclusion is also not a kumbaya moment. Where we all come together and say, kumbaya, diversity. Right? We're not singing Queen Latifah's UNITY with unity. No, we're not doing it. That's not the real diversity. Real diversity is not that we'll always agree. It's that we respect each other when we disagree. Real diversity is what I believe to be wholeheartedly, that we can vehemently disagree with someone's ideology and yet passionately pursue their humanity. And in our society, y'all, we have lost the art of respectfully disagreeing. Because there's going to be some stuff we disagree on, isn't there? I mean, half of y'all can't even agree on Aaron Rodgers. Right? Right? And it's so interesting. But when we come to this place of loving, respecting, and valuing the people, we begin to approach it not from a deficit perspective, even from abundance, but we start filling the glass back up of learning and understanding, hearing each other's stories. That's the inclusive mindset. We're no longer diversity and inclusion is something that we have to do, but rather someone that we choose to be. That's the inclusive mindset, y'all. But how do we get there? How do we get there? Well, one of the first things that we began to see as we worked with people and companies is that we found 4 different types of people in this conversation based on the inclusive exclusion mindset continuum, right? The first group of people were the I don't want tos. They weren't going to learn. Okay, all right. Then you had the next group of people, the I have tos. They showed up like this. Now, can you imagine going on your first date to McDonald's, right? First of all, there's a lot wrong with that statement. Sorry if you're a sponsor, all right. But you're going to your first date at McDonald's, you're sitting across from the person, and you're like, you know what? I don't really want to be here. The app said we match or something, so I'm here. It's probably going to be your last date for several reasons, right? But that's sometimes how we approach even this conversation. And y'all, I'm not talking about training. I'm talking about leaving our home bases to experience the people around us, even those that we disagree with. So my hope, my call, the inclusive mindset is all about getting people to the place where I get to and or I love to as we engage each other, even those we struggle with their differences. But it all comes down to mindset. Now, if you haven't read this book, please check out Carol Dweck's book called Mindset. Powerful, powerful book. She Stanford PhD, does great research, but she showed and seen in her research that there are 2 different types of mindsets. There's the fixed mindset. There are people only want to do things that they're good at, especially compared to other people. They never want to seem like they don't know, and ignorance is a bad word. Growth mindset people. They challenge themselves to learn something new. Failure isn't final, it's fuel to get better. And they consistently try new things. Now, the great part of this is that, y'all, she shows we can actually grow in the growth mindset. So one thing I began to do, I give it to you all, it's just a freebie. I began to do these things called birthday challenges. So every birthday I would do one thing I've never have done, but have thought about doing. So one of my first birthday challenges was going skiing. I grew up in Michigan, but we didn't have money, so I never got a chance to ski. And y'all, so at that time in my young 30s, and there were some of my fraternity brothers, and y'all, I'm on like a little magic carpet, like struggling to stay up. And there's like little 4 or 5-year-olds that were like, I'm just humiliated. I'm just like, should I keep going? Should I keep going back, right? But I chose to keep going back each and every year, and I got better and was doing intermediate slopes. And guess what? I took my kids, and they became those 4 or 5-year-old kids that were. It's because I challenged myself to grow in things that I hadn't necessarily known before. And that's the beauty that we can do in our own lives. But what amazes me is that, have you noticed that our society actually conditions people to be fixed mindset people? Have you noticed that? Oh, let's give you an example. What's this thing called? Rubik's Cube. Your name, ma'am? Ursula. You look like a Rubik's Cube champion, right? Okay, all right. But Ursula, imagine, when's the last time you saw like the nighttime shows, like, we want to welcome Ursula to the stage. Ursula came on the stage, and they're like, it took Ursula 5 years to solve the Rubik's Cube. That doesn't happen, does it? Because we want to know, can you do it underwater? Can you do it with your 2 front teeth? Can you do it while you're in Lake Michigan, hanging upside down in the ice? Can you do it with your pinky toe, right? Like we want to know how fast you can do it. Look, did you know that as my research, the world record for solving the Rubik's Cube was 4.22 seconds. It took me longer to say that. But that's what we prioritize in our society. Can you do it the fastest? Are you the best? Are you the biggest at it? And guess what? That's how people approach this diversity and inclusion conversation. And sometimes us, even in this room, we approach it to them in that same way. Unless you have DEI tattooed on your right arm. Add the B for belonging. We make people feel stupid, dumb, not a part, not included. Unless they know all the acronyms. We say things like, it's 2022 and you still struggle with? Y'all, yes. It's 2022 and I still struggle with stuff. Do you know recently I just learned, right, about last year, that we should be capitalizing the first letter in every hashtag that we use of the word, right? So imagine I said, we are family. I should be capitalizing the W, the A, and the F, because those who have reading disabilities, the reading software can't pick up all lowercase or all uppercase. It's 2022 and you still struggle with? Yes. I still struggle. I still make mistakes. I still say sometimes the wrong things, think the wrong things. But that's not the focus. The focus is, am I getting better? Am I making progress? So no matter where you are on this journey today, my hope, my goal is that we look back a year from today and we see how we've grown. It's not about where you should be from shame. It's about where you can be from inspiration. And that's the inclusive mindset. But it comes down to here. Now, I want to ask you a question. When you see this image, what do you see? You can call it out. What do you see? Beer. Okay, what else? It's clean, right? It's a welcome mat, but it's clean. Yeah, so what else do you see? Some like you. All right. People aren't leaving home to get beer. Okay. I heard somebody say conditional. Okay. See, I like asking really smart people like y'all this question, because y'all start getting real deep on me. Y'all be like, well, the font is symmetrical. Then my DIY people are like, look at that bricklaying. I wonder what kind of caulk that they use. Oh, and then my really, really deep people are like, oh, I get it, Justin. Why does the door have to be white? Why can't it be black, brown, or rainbow? Really deep. Okay. Now, what do you notice about the door? It's closed. It's a welcome mat, but the door is closed. Now, I know what you're saying. You're like, Justin, I don't want bugs in my house or my apartment either. But I noticed something very powerful many years ago, is that there's a difference between being welcoming and inviting. There's a difference. Now, welcoming is genuine. It will shake your hand, smile with you. It's glad that you're here. But there's an expectation, whether conscious or subconscious, that you're going to go back to your circles and I'm going to go back to mine. That's welcoming. Where inviting is humble enough to invite you into my circles, but also humble enough to be invitable into yours. That's inviting. And if you've ever struggled with what the difference with diversity and inclusion, diversity is welcoming. It's I'm glad that you're here. Inviting is inclusion. It's I'm glad that we are here. You see the small difference? And this is what we're called to, and to have the developed inclusive mindset is to be more inviting. Now, I know what you're saying, Justin. You're saying, Justin, that sounds really good. We should be more inviting. Yay! Is that the end of your keynote? No. I want to give you a mathematical formula. One of the things that we pride ourselves on is giving people practical strategies to actually enact the things that we share. And this mathematical formula is simply this: 1 MC over W. 1 MC over W simply stands for this: 1 meaningful connection per week. What if you built into your calendar 15, 20, 30 minutes or lunchtime where you put as a time to have meaningful conversations with those that you lead, those in your community, to hear the stories, the voices of those who are different than you? You ask them, what brought you to Madison? What brought you, what invested you to engage in an urban league? Tell me about the accent over your name. 1 meaningful connection per week. Now I hear some of you, you're like, Justin, but that's 52.14 times a year. And if that sounds like a lot, let's flip the W upside down. 1 meaningful connection per month. See, the focus is not that you get it absolutely right, but that you make progress. So maybe it's a lunch or a dinner where you invest and you hear the perspectives and journeys of others in a more intentional way. Another way to enact this is one of the things we've challenged organizations to do is, and even people, is called the Circles of Grace Challenge. Now, in one of our modules, the Circles of Grace, why we see people and events the way that we do, we challenge people to leave outside their circles and to expand them. And so I created this model not to help people. Initially, it was just for myself. I started noticing I was confining myself to my circles of comfort, the people I agreed with, people that I already, I know, I got you. But the Circles of Grace challenge me every 6 months. I go to events, experiences, or I engage with people either that I don't know a lot about or that I disagree with. And I go asking myself 2 questions. What did I learn about that event, experiences, and or people? And what did I learn about myself as I experienced them? What if you challenge yourself to take the Circles of Grace challenge? To learn about a group that you maybe are a little bit unfamiliar with, or even those that you disagree with, to be able to hear the perspectives and journeys. These are practical things that you can do and build into your calendar. But we have to ask, what are we willing to do? Are we willing to be more inviting and invitable? Like, let's be real. What are some of your inviting behaviors? Is it a smile? I like your smile. All right. I'm not going to go there. All right. Is it holding the door for someone? Is it having a meal with someone? For some of you, it could be a road trip. You learn a lot about people on a road trip. And I heard some of you in the audience, you're like, Justin, that sounds really good for the extroverts. But that's not what I do. Could it be volunteering for an organization that you're passionate about, and by happenstance you end up running into or bumping into people that you can learn from and ask what brought you here? We all can be a little bit more inviting. Now, I want to show you what inviting looks like. Now, recently, one of the things as I drive, I see these things like Siri tells me, take the exit, take the exit, take the exit. And one of our inviting behaviors is not taking the exit on people. Oftentimes, our brains are wired to take the exit. Let me ask this. If you ever had the privilege of driving, have you been driving and one day, Monday through Friday, you take this exit, Monday through Friday, then one day you're supposed to go straight, but what do? Take the exit. It's because what our brains are wired to do. It wants us to conserve energy for things it thinks it doesn't know, so we move in autopilot. But sometimes we do that with everyday people. We take the exit to second and third hand information. And y'all, I'm the same way. Let me tell you a place where I've taken the exit at times. Now, there's some diversity and inclusion folk that will only tell you stuff that they've gotten over. Let me tell you something that I still currently struggle with. Anytime I see a black woman who's in a relationship, married to or engaged to a white man, my automatic reaction is, oh, there's not no good brothers for you? Right, now, y'all, I know that to be false. I know people can love who they want to love and choose who they want to love, but that doesn't erase the decades of conditioning I received from certain members of my family and members in my community that taught me that that was wrong. And that's sometimes the issue that we deal with even in diversity and inclusion, is that just because we have the thought, we think that's the issue. That's not the issue at all. The issue is, what do we do with it once we've had it? Because we've all had wrong thoughts. Now, guess what? Now, if I see a black woman with a white man, my automatic conditioned response comes in, oh, there's not good brothers for you. But then, y'all, I become the romance novelist of all times. I'm like, but they were probably walking alongside the river. And they looked into each other's eyes and they're like, when I see your smile, and just one look at you. And I'm just like, and like rose petals were probably falling from the sky, right? And I start chuckling to myself. This recently happened like about a week and a half ago. And I just start chuckling to myself. I'm doing what psychologists call mental reframing. But I realized it wasn't good enough to just create fictitious stories. I needed to hear real ones. So I began talking to people. And I realized my business manager, Dari, is a black woman who's married to Derek, a white male. And I had never asked them how they met. So I took the moment to hear their story. And it was powerful. Y'all, I wish I can tell you, even now, I see a black woman with a white man, I'm like, yeah, yipperies! Like, no, it doesn't happen that way. But how I respond to it has changed. And I hear stories. And my heart begins to soften. That's being more invitable. Another example of being more invitable comes from this. Now, recently I did Machu Picchu, climbed. It was a nice, great journey. And one day, because after you do 4 days and 29 miles, of course, you're going to want to go to the gym the day after, right? And so I go to the gym, and I come out the gym, and I see these guys that were dancing in a circle. And I'm like, okay, but I'm standing outside the circle, and I'm like twice their age. I'm a different race. I don't know if we speak the same language. I'm not going to do it. But you hear the music, and your foot starts tapping. All right. And then this guy comes out and he's like, hey, what's your name? And I'm like, Justin. He's like, where are you from? I'm like, USA, North Carolina. I'm in Peru. And he was like, hey, you know what? You can join the circle if you want. And he's like, if you feel like you want to dance, you can dance too. And I'm like, oh, okay, thanks. But this was my response to him inviting me to the circle.
Let's go! Let's go!
I will stop right there. All right, we'll stop right there. I appreciate it. I love me some dancing. All right? But what I loved, and in the full video, one of the things you'll see and notice is that even when I got done dancing, they applauded me. They were like, they dapped me up. They gave me some, like, yeah, good job, great job. One guy tried to imitate me. He was like that. And I realized something. Not only did I get invited to the circle, not only did he say if I wanted to dance, I could dance. Guess what he also did? They also did. They encouraged me while I was doing it. I just wasn't invited. I was encouraged, had a sense of belonging. And so I ended up dancing again. I won't show you that video. You ask me about that later. I have it on my phone. But it also reminded me, I take people to Ghana twice a year. And this is my recent trip. We came back Thursday. And the guy at the far end, Jeff, on the far left, one of the things he talked about, he started to see some of the luxuries he didn't realize he had. Because for the first time, he had to ask, is it okay for me to be in a picture? First time he wondered, am I here? He talked about how he would now count the white people in the room. And this is what ended up happening as we invited Jeff even into the circle. right, give it up for Jeff, y'all. All right. He felt comfortable being himself, right? This is my parents' house, by the way. Don't believe what they tell you about Africa, by the way. Yeah, this is my parents' house. So the interesting thing for all of this is that this is what invitation looks like, but we have to first do this. Seek to be more interested in others than interesting. How do we do that? I'll give you a quick practical tool so I get very close. It's all about what I learned from the kid on the plane who wouldn't shut up. Yeah. Got on this plane. I was tired. I didn't bring my Bose noise-canceling headphones. And this little kid who's on the window seat, like 8 or 9 years old, he has one of those signs on, like I'm a little kid that's traveling by myself, so don't mess with me kind of signs. And I sit down. It wasn't 10 seconds into my slumber that this little kid starts yapping. Talking to the lady next to us, who I believe is from Laos. He's asking her these great questions, like what's Laos like and all these things. And I noticed he was engaging in 2 powerful concepts. 1, courageous curiosity. And 2, authentic listening. First, he was courageous to learn about her, and he was asking these powerful questions because he was genuinely interested. But not only was he courageously curious about her, he asked the why questions. And y'all, remember when we were 8 or 9 years old? We asked questions like we knew nothing. And now we've gotten older, we know just a little bit more, and we ask questions like we know everything. And what's the number one question of kids everywhere? Why, right? But he was engaged in this powerful concept of courageous curiosity and also this concept called authentic listening. Notice I didn't say active listening. Oh, you didn't know you can fake active listening? Oh, I used to teach it. Let me tell you how. All you had to do was repeat what the person just said to you. Or mimic their behaviors. Oh, this will get them every time. All you got to do, lean in. They'll really think you're on their side then. You can do all that stuff and not be listening. Ask my kids. Right now, not that they've done it to me, I've done it to them, no judgment. The interesting thing is that I realize that sometimes we're not more inviting because we're not deeply listening to others. And so I want to give you this practical tool that stems from how we communicate. And it's called challenging our double Dutch communication. Oh, you don't know what double Dutch is? Let me explain. So single rope is like this. Double Dutch are 2 ropes like this. And somebody waiting to jump in like this. And that's how we communicate. We're like, take a breath, take a breath, take a breath, and this is why I disagree with you. That's how we communicate. We're waiting to jump in, tell people why we disagree with them, why we don't value what they have to say. But I want to challenge you with this practical tool called the power of 3. The power of 3 is a simple tool where you listen to the 3rd level of the conversation. But most people stop at the power of 1 or the power of 2 because they can't wait to get it back to who? So what if instead of bringing it back to you, somebody's like, oh my gosh, I went to one of the best restaurants in my life. What do we say? But have you been to such and such? Versus what made it the best restaurant for you? Power of 3. I want you to practice it even while you're here. As you meet people in the hallways, I want you to ask them a powerful question. I want you to ask them, what's been a meaningful moment in your life that shaped who you are today? Meaningful connections. Yeah, this is a really big question. And I realized something, is that if we ask surface level questions, what should we expect back? So instead of the normal, where do you work? What do you do? What if we ask people, what's the best last book you've read? What's been your favorite volunteer opportunity? How have you served the community recently? These are things that drive meaningful connections. It allows us to hear the power of people's stories and ultimately to grow in our action. So what will you do? What will you do? How will you live this out? Will you take the Circles of Grace challenge? Will you utilize the power of 3? I promise you go home, practice that. They'd be like, what conference did you go to? You've never listened to me like that. because what we do is what matters. Now, one of the things that we have come together to do, and I want to thank all those who have worked hard to put this together, is that today only, that if you go to Amazon, if you don't have Kindle, download the Kindle app on your phone or your phone, that this book is complimentary for you today, The Inclusive Mindset. So you can go, thank the amazing group, Urban League. And you can download the book complimentary, all right? Because our hope, our desire is that more and more people adopt this just as an everyday walk of their life, not as some big initiative. All right? Also, one of the things that we've been really doing is this whole concept of diversity is dope. Now, let me be very clear, dope is the good stuff I'm talking about. Where I'm from, that means good. And so we've been challenging people to normalize the conversation of diversity is dope and what it looks like. I even make my kids wear diversity is dope. No, they're joking. But we are supporting and utilizing some of our profits towards organizations that embody the inclusive mindset. And then this year, our focus is on helping to end the pay gap and speaking to pay equity for women in the workplace. And so these are the practical ways. Thank you. These are the practical ways that we can do something. Oh, by the way, I didn't realize this when I did it. All of the sizes are the same price. See, I didn't realize until I got some emails that some people said, Justin, thank you so much. Because for years I've been paying the quote unquote fat tax. I had no idea. The small things that we do matter so much to the people that we engage. You can find it at diversityisdope.com. And with all that being said, I want to say thank you for being here. I'll see some of you in my session around how to be an intentionally inclusive leader a little bit later. But I want to say thank you. Stay in touch with me. I'm Justin at workmeaningful.com or at iWorkMeaningful. I prefer LinkedIn, but I'm at all these places. And how we live out our lives simply can be summed up in one song. Now, we don't know what this part is. Thank y'all so much. I'm Justin Jones-Fosu. Have a good one, y'all.
That was awesome. Thank you, Brother Justin. And now I have the honor to introduce to you all the 58th mayor of Madison, Wisconsin, my friend and fellow MadREP board member to many of you, Mayor Satya Rhodes-Conway. And so, real briefly, one of the things that I want to thank the mayor for is, number one, the mayor has always been very open and honest with me. And recently, our relationship has just been growing. Took her time out to sit down with me and really encourage me to do some things that we both agreed on. And one of the things that's really important and what I love about it is you all may not know, MadREP was contacted by the federal government to pursue what we call the Economic Development District, meaning when we get that designation, what typically will happen is when you have federal contracts and projects, you probably want to attach our name to it because they will look at you a little bit more favorably. Also, to the mayor's credit, I want to thank her and her team. MadREP signed a memorandum of understanding with representatives from South Africa that we had last week, and the mayor jumped on it right away and played a gracious host to an international community. And I want to thank you, Mayor, and your team for really being inclusive in a number of ways. And so my pleasure to introduce to you all the 58th Mayor of Madison, my friend, Mayor Satya Rhodes-Conway.
Thank you, Jason, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm really not sure how anyone is supposed to talk after what you just heard. That was great. I didn't catch all of it, but what I did was very inspiring. And so I hope that's been your day here, right? I hope you've been inspired. I hope you had a chance to have some of those authentic conversations. I hope you've had moments of learning. I want to not take too much of your time, but I do want to lay out a few things that I think are important for us to talk about in this space and share a little bit about the work that the city is doing and why we're doing that work. I'm going to start with three statements, which I hope we can all agree on. The first is that our economy doesn't work if it's not working for everyone. The second is that how we spend our money is one of the clearest ways to demonstrate what we value. And the third is that the potential represented by, and I'm just going to be real here, represented by the mostly BIPOC youth who are not engaged in education and employment in our community, that is a huge lost potential for our economy. And we're seeing it happen every day. And so my question is, what are we doing about it? What are we doing about it? What are you doing about it? And how can we work together to make sure that we are no longer losing that potential, which we so desperately need in our economy? This is why since I came to office, I have been very intentionally focused on continuing. I want to acknowledge those that came before me and the good work that they did, continuing and advocating and developing new programs and policies that ensure that BIPOC, LGBTQ+, women, and other marginalized folks have opportunity in our economy. We're investing in young people through internships and apprenticeships with the city at a level that we have never done before, but also with community partners like Operation Fresh Start and Commonwealth Development and more. And let me just say now, I'm not going to be able to name all the partners that we work with at the city, so forgive me if you're one of them and I left you out, but we're working with a lot of people, and I'm proud of that we're working with a lot of people. We're funding community-based organizations like Dear Diary, like Seeing is Believin', like Bayview, and many, 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 many more to work with young people in our community. Madison invests millions of dollars into our neighborhood centers, youth employment programs, out-of-school time programs, childcare, and many of the other things that help young people and families thrive here in Madison. And we have a number of programs focused on supporting entrepreneurship in particular, and I want you to see the connection. I start with the young people, right? Because if we lose that potential, that's a long-term loss for us, right? And so we need young people to be connected to education. We need them to be connected to employment opportunities. We need them to be on a pathway to success. And then we need to support folks once they're on that pathway. We need to support them if they want to be entrepreneurs, right? If they want to start or grow a business in our community. The city has a number of things that we're doing to support that. Broadly, we have our small business equity program that we've been working on for some years now. And in particular, when the pandemic hit, we pivoted our small business equity work to be equity and recovery work because we knew that our small business community needed support for us. In 2020, we introduced the SBER grants that provided up to $10,000 in grant funds for businesses owned by people facing historical inequities. And we have dispersed over $2 million to those businesses in our community to help them survive and recover from the pandemic. We also have a very successful commercial ownership assistance program that funds underrepresented business owners to purchase and renovate commercial space so they can control their own fate by being their own landlord. And I'm really proud of the handful of groups that have already taken advantage of this. And we just want to keep this program going so that when businesses are ready to be owners, to have another level of wealth generation, that they have the opportunity to do that. We're also supporting pop-up shops on State Street. If you haven't been to the Culture Collectives, please get down there and spend some money on them. They have really great products and services that are available. These are entrepreneurs that are trying out a brick and mortar space to see if it works for their business, to see if it's a path forward into wealth generation for them. And for some of them, it absolutely is. And for others, they learn that what they really want to do is lean in to an online store or a different facet of their business. And that's an important learning process that we are proud to support, to give them that opportunity. So again, get down there to the Culture Collectives on the 400 block of State Street. And that was a fantastic partnership. I got to call out these partners in particular. It's a collaboration between the Black, Hmong, and Latino chambers, who have been absolutely stalwart partners for us throughout the pandemic. And I cannot tell you how much I love the women who run those organizations and how important those partnerships have been to us in the city of Madison. Yeah, they deserve a round of applause. But we also had support from J.D. McCormick Properties, who donated, or close to donated, the space, the bid, and other folks downtown. And that's a model for us, right, to bring together those partnerships for success for our small business community. We have our seed grants and our HRAP program that support food-based businesses and increase access to healthy food in our neighborhoods. Food is a strong part of the Madison economy, right? And that is something that we want to make sure is benefiting everybody by creating that access, but also encouraging entrepreneurship in the food space, which is an important growth area for us. And we have expanded our grant programs and tweaked them to be more accessible, that support facade improvements, support energy efficiency improvement, and support tenant build-out of new spaces. And I think we've worked really nicely with the work MadREP is doing to administer the state program to get people into vacant storefronts. Now, we want to help support that with the tenant build-out allowance as well. And so that's just another way that we're trying to help build our economy, support our neighborhood business districts, and make sure that everybody has access to entrepreneurship in Madison. And we have a number of programs that I want to mention as well that are about helping small, local, and targeted business enterprises successfully compete for city contracts. And let me say before I list these programs that while these are about getting folks to win contracts from the city, because we spend a lot of money in our community, the same things that help them get our contracts can help them get state contracts and potentially federal contracts. And let me go out on a limb here, contracts from UW-Madison or UW Health or Madison College. Let me go down the list of anchor institutions in our community, right? Because there is a lot of money that is spent on goods and services in our community, and I believe that more of that money should go to local businesses, to businesses owned by women, owned by people of color, owned by LGBTQ folks, to reinvest in our community and to put our money where our values are. So some of the things that we're doing at the city, we have a suite of contracting and procurement equity initiatives that are citywide and focus on getting many of our agencies to really look at how do they need to change their policies in order to promote more equitable access to the spending that they do in our community. We have, in particular, a targeted business enterprise program that works to ensure that small minority and women business enterprises can maximize their opportunity to compete for city contracting and other procurement opportunities. And recently, we released a request for information for businesses that work particularly in the sustainability space, but also that more broadly are based here in Madison or are owned by women or people of color, because we want to up the percentage of our spend to local businesses and businesses owned by women and people of color. And we want to do that in the way that is most sustainable for our climate going forward. And so we are gathering information about businesses that are interested in doing business with us, and then sharing that out with agencies. And you know what? Because of the open records law, that's all public information. So if your company is interested in knowing what kind of responses we're getting, if you're interested in upping your percent of your spend also, come talk to us, because we're going to get a lot of information about what's available out there. And finally, I want to talk about the ACRE training program, because one of the things that the city does a lot of is work in real estate, whether that's us building or whether that's us facilitating other people building. And there, frankly, is the commercial real estate community is not as diverse as it could be, shall we say that? And so we are helping to get folks from Madison trained in commercial real estate and development to help understand the finance, to understand the city process that you need to get through to be successful, and to understand the landscape of this industry. So we've have already successfully sent 5 folks from Madison through that program. We have another cohort going now, and in the long term, which I hope is not actually that long term, we want to have a Madison-based program, because right now we're sending them to Milwaukee to get trained, but we need one of these programs in Madison, and that's something that we're working on to start up with LISC and other partners here in Madison. And I want to take a moment. We got a couple of tables of City of Madison staff out there. Would you all just stand up, because these are the folks that are doing the work of everything that I'm talking about. So if you work for the City of Madison, come on, I see you all out there. Stand up. Those are the folks that make it happen every day. And I am blessed to have a really fantastic team helping me on this work. And we prioritize this work because we believe that it's up to us to help build a more just and equitable economy. We know that the wealth gaps that exist between the white community and BIPOC communities are real, and that those wealth gaps between men and women are real, and they're rooted in historic practices like redlining, like job discrimination, exclusionary legislation that excluded particularly Black Americans from higher paying jobs and homeownership. And we know that we can begin to close those gaps by creating more opportunities for meaningful savings, for property ownership, for credit building, and ultimately for generational wealth. And we know that our community and our economy will do better when small and medium-sized BIPOC and women-owned businesses flourish in Madison. I believe that you're in this room because you're working towards a more inclusive economic ecosystem. And I want to ask that we all continue that work and not relent even when it's challenging. We certainly need to learn from each other, and that's why I'm glad that you're here. It's why we have so many city staff here, and it's why I'm thankful for spaces like this summit that allow for the exchange of information and experiences and inspiration, like we just heard. I hope that every one of you, in addition to having those meaningful conversations, will come away from today with at least one thing that you can put into practice right away, and that you go back to your office and you do it. Don't wait, right? Don't let it get buried under the piles of other things that need to happen. If you got a good idea, take it and run with it. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here today. Thanks to MadREP, to the Urban League for your work, not just on today and this event, but everything that you do in our community. And I hope you all will accept the challenge of helping us to localize and diversify our economy, because we really all will be better for it. Thank you.